Dear listeners, before we start the show today, we wanted to let you know that we are taking a break from our usual programming to feature a special story that we recorded a few months ago. It's a story that actually has nothing to do with the current news cycle, but we thought you'll enjoy it, especially if you like audio storytelling. We recorded it with Tora Agarwala, who up until recently used to write on the Northeast for the Indian Express. Also, unlike most of our other episodes, this story includes other languages along with English. So, without further ado, here's a special story with Tora Agarwala. Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show.
So do you recognize the song?
Not really.
Wait, let me play that for you again.
Is that Frozen?
Yes, it is.
Wait, what language is that in?
It's in Miso.
How did you come across this? Were you watching Frozen in Miso?
So 5 years ago, I was on my maiden trip to Mizoram and I entered my hotel room, put on the television, and I heard this song. It was familiar because it was Frozen, but it was also not so familiar because it was in Miso. But on that trip, it wasn't just a Miso Elsa that I heard in Mizoram. Wherever I went across town, I found Miso speakers in the unlikeliest of places. From an Ekta Kapoor serial to an Amitabh Bachchan film to a random Turkish show I didn't even know the name of now.
All this was dubbed in Miso.
All of it.
Anpom dungai hei name, pomtir ni zok thin. Chuan prosecutor Maya hian, chu a thiam zong takani.
Ani Maya, nang manilo.
And obviously that got me really curious. Like, why are all these shows which I've, grown up watching and all these films I've seen as a child, why were they in Miso? And soon I went down this rabbit hole that is the vibrant dubbing industry of Mizoram.
And Tora, what is the reason that we are talking about the Miso dubbing industry today?
So over the last decade, not just English and Hindi, but Korean, Thai, Japanese, movies and television shows in these languages have come to dominate television viewership in Mizoram. And what props this up is a small-scale industry of sorts. Young men and women from Mizoram dub these shows for a living. So I was doing a story on this dubbing industry of Mizoram. So while tracking this story, I met this lady, and she perhaps has the most unique job in the world.
The most unique job? Who is this woman?
Her name is Melody G Fanai.
Okay, voice recording, start. Yeah, I'm ready.
तो आपके जैसे बहुत डबिंग आर्टिस्ट है ना मिजोरम में?
हाँ, बहुत डबिंग आर्टिस्ट है, लेकिन ज्यादा अच्छा वॉइस नहीं है. मेरे जैसे नहीं है, सच में.
So, Melody is a singer, film producer, a dubber, but she's also a professional WhatsApp voice note artist.
A professional WhatsApp voice note artist?
Yeah, that's right. So even when I met her, I was pretty awestruck when she told me she did this on the side. And so basically it is that people write messages for their near and dear ones, give it to her, and then she records these messages in her very beautiful, silky voice. And that voice note is sent to her, let's say, customers, and they then send it to their loved ones. So these are basically voice notes which people get her to record, and she charges a small fee for that. And that's her job. And yeah, this is what she's been doing for, I think, more than 10 years now. And I don't think anyone else in the world does something like this.
I mean, this is such a specific job. How did she even get into something like this?
So, I mean, when I met her, it was, I think, 2018. And by that time, she'd been doing it for a good 7 or 8 years already. And so she said she couldn't quite remember how she did it, but she says possibly, because her voice is so beautiful and so melodious. So I think one of her friends had once asked her to record a voice note for something. And then another time, one of her students, she was teaching at a school at that time, had also asked her to record some Teacher's Day message or something like that. And then, somehow it caught on locally. And then, over time through Facebook groups and all, people in Mizoram came to know that, okay, this lady has a great voice and she records heartfelt voice notes for a small fee. So, I mean, that's how she got into this profession. And when I asked her to record this podcast, she was willing, but she was a little hesitant because she says her Hindi is not that great and she's not very comfortable with it. But I told her it's totally chill because even my Hindi is not that great. Even though her Hindi is not that great and it's not a language she speaks in very frequently, she sings a number of Hindi songs, and this is all from just watching Hindi films and picking up the language from there. So, just to sort of make her more comfortable in this interview, I asked her to sing her favorite song in Hindi, and she did.
हिंदी गाना मैं बहुत पसंद किया. That's why मूवी देखकर मैंने सीखी मूवी गाना. I love हिंदी song. तुझसे नाराज नहीं जिंदगी, हैरान हूँ मैं, ओ हैरान हूँ मैं.
So Tora, let's talk more about this job of hers. Tell us, what kind of messages does she usually get requests for?
So it could be a variety of messages of, let's say, undying love or birthday messages, condolence messages, or even profuse apologies or pleas for forgiveness.
और ऐसे भी जैसे प्रेम प्रेमिका या पति पत्नी के बीच में कोई झगड़ा हो तो कोई मुझे ये मैसेज वॉइस नोट करवा के अपने पार्टनर को भेजते हैं. इससे उनके बीच की बिगड़ा हुआ रिलेशनशिप फिर से बन जाती है. ऐसे भी बहुत लोग हैं.
And are there any kind of messages that she receives the most requests for?
Yeah, so she did say she gets a number of requests for Mother's Day.
सबसे ज्यादा मदर्स डे का मैसेज अच्छा लगती है क्योंकि मैं भी मॉम हूँ ना, मदर हूँ ना. अब बच्चों को अपनी माँ के लिए प्यार देकर मुझे बहुत खुशी मिलती है. मैं उनके मैसेज की भी बहुत ईमान करती हूँ.
And while you were talking to her, did she tell you anything about her process and how she records these messages?
So this is essentially recording a voice note on WhatsApp, which, all of us do on a daily basis, right? So you'd think it wouldn't take much, but, this is almost like acting for her. Like she really needs to get into character. So while I was interviewing her, I asked her to, record a really emotional message for me. And just listen to this. This is what she came up with.
Mingal sansu katini lomia. Katinge tiang khani Itan te top katswa. Lim takin koma. Katum ve chin sin. Engatinge katiang khani tia. Itelawin tinge komang. Anang atelawang kom tailo sin. Mingal sansu. Kalsa. Mingay damro. Kati swala ni sa mingay damro. Mingal sansu. Mingal sansu.
Wow, it was so good.
So it seems like this requires a lot, both in terms of what she does with her voice and how sincerely she treats the emotional tone of the message.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of it would be about that only, about the emotion she puts in, about, her tone. So at the end of the day, even if it's like a 1-minute voice note, she'd have to practice and, get into character and put all of that in.
ये बहुत जरूरी है ना. सेट मैसेज को फील्स अंदर से बोलना बहुत जरूरी है. हैप्पी मैसेज को ओ मम्मी आई लव यू, मम्मी कहाँ हो तुम, ऐसे बोलना है. टोन बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट. टोन की वजह से किसी को दिल छू सकता है, राइट?
And this is pretty evident when you hear the final product, whether it's a message student is recording for her teacher.
Teacher zia kalau pek pang cia cika. Rose balkon kin cia. Zirti tu voin hian kang hai tuk cia.
Or a really heartfelt Valentine's Day message.
Chadang zong zong mukana ke min thlang hi. Makti na chan nei fo mai la. He ro ka chiang. Nang mangai na ko nga hi chuan to man min tluk do no ti hi.
And Tora, I mean, what do her customers, people who she has sent voice notes to, have to say about her?
So in the last 10 odd years, Melody has been doing this. Of course, she has many clients. So I spoke to one of them, and his name is George Zorem Siama. He is a teacher in a government school in Mizoram. And I think a good 7-8 years back, he had hired Melody to record a voice note for his then girlfriend, and it was a apology message. And I asked him that, George, you were using some other woman's voice, and was it odd in any way? And he was like, no, not at all. My girlfriend didn't care, it was someone else's voice. She was just so happy that I put so much thought into this. And that's how it worked for both of them. Of course, now they're not together, but back then, it really sort of won him a lot of brownie points. And this is what he had to say.
मैंने दिया था ना एक व्हाट्सएप वॉइस में बेचा है वो तो मेरा गर्लफ्रेंड तो पागल हो गया.
ये बहुत अच्छा लगा.
बहुत अच्छा.
क्या बोला?
मैंने तुमसे प्यार किया.
अच्छा, तो एक बात बताइए, मेलोडी का वॉइस मतलब सबको इतना क्यों पसंद है? मेलोडी के वॉइस में क्या है जो इतना मतलब मैजिक है, सबको इतना अच्छा लगता है, क्यों?
हिंदी भाषा में तो साफ साफ से नहीं बता सकेगा, लेकिन ना बड़ा कोशिश करेगा.
हाँ.
मेलोडी वॉइस में बहुत चार्म है, बहुत स्पेशल है, बहुत सेक्सी है. सेक्सी का मतलब बुरा बात नहीं है ना.
And Tora, do you think something like this is unique to Mizoram?
So I would say it is unique to Mizoram because at least I'm not aware where else this happens in the world. And, why something like this works. I actually asked George his thoughts on it. And he said that, like him, many Misos are, to use his words directly, are diehard romantics. And they're deeply influenced by the television they watch, especially Korean romance dramas, especially the young Misos. So according to him, this is one reason something like this worked.
मिजो आदमी तो इतना सीरियस लेता है लव के बारे में, प्यार के बारे में, जो स्पेशली इन टीनेज स्टेज ऐसे ही रोमांटिक हुआ जैसे ही ना बहुत ज्यादा पसंद है.
Okay, so Tora, you mentioned that Melody is a producer, she's a director, she sings, she sends these professional WhatsApp voice notes. Is she popular in Mizoram?
Yeah, Mizoram is anyway a small state, and she's become pretty popular in the last few years. Obviously, as a WhatsApp voice note recording artist, but also because, she does a lot of music videos, she sings for many concerts in Mizoram itself. In fact, when I was talking to her, she told me how recently she had gone to buy medicines at a local chemist, and that man recognized her and, just heard her voice and said, "Oh, are you Melody?" And, he just recognized her from her voice. So that was pretty thrilling for her.
इस दवाई को मुझे दे दो, मैंने बोला. वो कपी ने रिप्लाई दिया, ओह आप मेलोडी है क्या? हाँ, क्या हुआ? आप मेलोडी है, वो आपने वॉइस किया राइट? ऐसे पूछा. यस, मैं मेलोडी हूँ. ओह माय गॉड, आपका चेहरा देखकर मैं बहुत खुश हूँ. ऐसा बोला. मैं कुछ नहीं बोला. आई एम सो शाय उस टाइम. और एक कपी ने दवाई को
And Tora, tell us a bit about Melody herself. We understand that she's in her early 30s now. What was it like for her growing up in Mizoram?
So Melody comes from a humble background. In fact, she told me there were quite a few financial difficulties when she grew up. In fact, as a child, she had to sell fruits to see herself through school.
Market में fruit बेचती थी पढ़ने के लिए.
And now she's really happy that she can provide all the necessary things her children need in terms of education and generally to lead a good life, which she didn't have growing up.
बच्चों का कपड़ा भी खरीद सकता है और किताब भी खरीद सकता है, ये जूता पेन्स बहुत खरीद सकता है, मेरे लिए बहुत अच्छा है.
Yeah, so the other thing she said that she's happy and, she's really glad that it is her voice, the power of her voice that enables her to pay the bills.
मेरी आवाज से सब अलग अलग से सिंगिंग से भी मैंने पैसा मिला, वॉइस डबिंग से मैंने पैसा मिला और व्हाट्सएप वॉइस नोट से भी, 3 ways.
And Tora, this is a pretty unique job. I mean, her voice notes in some cases really help people strengthen and even mend their relationships. What does she feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I asked her. What does she make of her profession as a WhatsApp voice note recording artist? And she said that, ultimately, what gives her joy is that through her voice, she's bringing people together.
And Tora, what were you left with after speaking with Melody? Is there anything about her story and what she does that really stands out for you?
Of course, I found it fascinating. I mean, but I also thought it was kind of sentimental too. In this very connected world where people are always in touch with each other, this seemed to be just one more way of expressing, let's say, one's feelings or communicating with loved ones. It's another kind of love language maybe. And what George also said to me that, his girlfriend was happy, not so much because of the voice, but also because he had gone that extra mile to, make this unique gift for her, which was a voice note. So it's also a comment on how one woman's voice can bring people together.
मैं बहुत पसंद करती हूँ ये काम. मैं बहुत खुश हूँ. चाइल्डहुड के टाइम अभी ऐसे बहुत डिफरेंट है मेरे लिए. मैं बहुत खुश हूँ.
You were listening to 3 Things by The Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.